Welcome to Shatter.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. It happened on a Sunday morning at Target. She was filming another Sunday reset for her followers, the kind where you fill a red cart with candles, planners, and oat milk like it means something. I stood a few aisles away, watching her hold her phone higher, searching for the right light, not the right words. That's when I heard her say it, laughing into her camera. Intimacy isn't everything. Sometimes you just need space. She didn't know I was close enough to hear. Something inside me went quiet. Not angry, just off. I looked at her through the reflection in a glass jar, the one she was holding up for her story. Her smile wasn't for me. It hadn't been for a while. It was for whoever watched her feed, for whoever commented first. Later that night, she sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through Instagram like she was trying to find air. Every few seconds, a notification lit up her iPhone screen. Hearts, flame emojis, the usual noise. One name kept showing up. A fitness influencer with a perfect jawline and a protein shake brand. She laughed at his comments, typed something back, then locked her screen when she noticed me looking. "I'm just networking," she said. That word landed like dust. Too light to matter, too dirty to ignore. I didn't respond. Instead, I washed my hands slowly, the sound of running water louder than the silence between us. She posted a photo a few minutes later, coffee cup, captioned Sunday warmth. A Starbucks sleeve in the frame, not me. That night, we sat on opposite ends of the couch. Netflix played in the background, some show we'd both forgotten to follow. Her phone buzzed again. She smiled. Not the tired smile I used to know, but the one she gave her followers. Practiced, public, untouchable. For the first time, I realized something. She thought closeness was optional. She thought I'd stay no matter how far she drifted into her digital reflection. So I stayed silent. But in that silence, something shifted. I started counting exits, the kind you don't announce. When the screen lit up again, I didn't look this time. I just memorized the glow, the way it pulled her in, and knew that soon, she'd be searching for mine. It started small, the kind of change that only someone paying close attention would notice. She began setting her phone face down when she was around me, laughing at messages that didn't make a sound. Her coffee got colder every morning, her eyes staying on that glowing screen while she stirred the cup absently. The same Starbucks mug appeared in her stories, the same half-smile that used to be mine. One evening, I came home from the job site covered in dust. She was sitting on the couch, wearing a sweatshirt that wasn't mine, filming herself for a late-night Q&A. I watched quietly from the hallway as she answered questions about self-love and boundaries, her voice lighter than I'd heard it in months. Then I saw his username slide across the screen, asking something I didn't want to read. She laughed, not the way she used to, but like someone being watched. That was the first hit, not from what she said, but from what she didn't. The distance between us wasn't made of words anymore. It was made of attention, and she'd already sold hers. At work, I built things that lasted. Foundations, beams, the kind of structures that could survive storms. She built moments, polished, edited, and disposable by morning. I tried to understand, but you can't compete with a crowd you can't see. During my lunch breaks at Subway, I'd sit alone, eating the same turkey sandwich, scrolling through nothing. I wasn't checking her page. I already knew what I'd find. When I got home that night, she was on FaceTime with someone from the agency, or so she said. The screen flickered as I passed by, and for half a second, I saw him again, the same face from her comments. She ended the call too fast, said it was work stuff. I nodded, didn't ask, didn't accuse, just filed it away like a blueprint detail, a quiet flaw in the structure. That was the night I realized something deeper. She wasn't just neglecting us, she was rehearsing her exit, and I was learning to make mine invisible. So I started pulling back, one login at a time. A quiet test of what would happen when I stopped reacting. She wanted attention. I wanted air. One of us was about to get exactly what we asked for. The proof didn't come all at once. It showed up in fragments, echoes caught between her screen and her silence. A reflection of her phone lighting up at midnight. A muted notification from Instagram when she thought I was asleep. A laugh that didn't belong to our world anymore. One afternoon, she left her laptop open on the kitchen counter while taking a call outside. I wasn't searching, but the messages were already there. glowing like a confession no one asked for. His name, the same one from her feed, pinned at the top. The chat wasn't explicit, but it didn't have to be. Compliments, late-night check-ins, jokes about her posts. Words that sound innocent when said out loud, but look different when you know the person typing them used to fall asleep beside you. She came back in, smiling, grabbed her laptop, and said she had a campaign to finish. I just nodded. I didn't need to confront her. I already had what I needed. Proof wasn't for revenge. It was for clarity. That night, while she scrolled through her phone, I sat in the garage beside my Ford Ranger, the only space that still felt mine. The air smelled like concrete and oil, familiar, steady. I thought about how everything she touched lately existed in pixels: attention, affection, even validation. I built walls that held weight. She built moments that disappeared. When she went to bed, I checked our joint accounts, utilities, subscriptions. I wasn't snooping, I was calculating. Every connection was another thread that tied me to her world of noise. I started listing what I could cut. My number from the Wi-Fi. My cards from the streaming services. The small, silent steps of an exit no one would see coming. She didn't notice the shift. Her reflection was her universe, and I had become invisible in it. She was too busy checking who watched her stories to realize the one person who used to always watch had already stopped. That was the night I stopped trying to be understood. I didn't need her explanation. I had the timestamps, the words, the tone, and for the first time, I felt something like freedom, not from her, but from the illusion that she still saw me. The morning I disappeared started like any other. She was making content out of coffee again, slow pour, steam, a caption about balance. I watched her frame the shot, adjusting the Starbucks cup just enough to show the logo. She didn't notice I was already dressed for work, suitcase by the door, truck keys in my hand. She said she had a meeting at 10. I said nothing. I just walked out like always. But this time, I didn't take the highway to the site. I took the long road out of town, past the construction yards and the half-finished houses I used to build. The silence inside the car felt heavier than her words ever did. By noon, I'd already done it. Logged out of everything: Facebook, Instagram, the shared calendar, even Netflix. Then I deleted them all. Every app that tied me to her orbit. My last message to her was simple: take care of the bills. You've got this. No emotion, just transfer of responsibility. I changed my number, closed the shared account, rerouted the utilities. Every digital thread between us, cut clean. It wasn't revenge. It was symmetry. She'd been living in a virtual life without me. Now I'd be living a real one without her. That night, while she refreshed her feed, waiting for likes that never came from me, my phone was already off. I stayed in a small motel near the highway. No Wi-Fi, no noise, just the hum of the vending machine outside. I thought about how quiet peace really is when you stop trying to explain yourself to someone who only listens through screens. She called, of course, again and again, then texts, then voice notes. At some point, I stopped counting. Her last message before I powered off said, "Why are you doing this?" But I wasn't doing anything. That was the point. By the time she realized I wasn't coming back, I'd already started a new job in another city, new site, new air, new mornings that didn't need filters. Her world was built on attention. Mine, finally, on absence. And in that absence, she'd find what I had felt for months: silence that sounds a lot like consequence. The fitness guy didn't last long. That's what I heard later, through a coworker who still followed her online. Apparently, his sponsors dropped him after some messy brand deal, and she quietly stopped tagging him in her posts. That's how it always went with her. When the light faded, she found a new camera to stand under. But this time, the glare stayed. People had started to notice. Her agency's group chat leaked screenshots, her messages to him, the ones that blurred the line between networking and personal. A client saw them, then her boss. They didn't fire her, but they pulled her from a major campaign. Too distracting, they said. The same words she once used about me. I didn't orchestrate it. I didn't have to. The world she'd built was self-collapsing, too dependent on mirrors and praise to survive a shadow. My silence was enough to tilt the balance. While she tried to manage the fallout, I was already months into a new project, a long-term build in a small coastal town. My days started early, with the sound of drills and steel. No notifications, no noise. I had traded her chaos for blueprints and the kind of satisfaction you can measure in progress, not likes. Sometimes, after work, I'd eat at a local diner. No brand, no filters. Just quiet. I'd see couples there, real ones, sitting across from each other without their phones on the table. It looked foreign at first. Then it looked right. She tried to reach me once more, through email this time. The subject line just said, "We need to talk." I didn't open it. I didn't delete it either. I just let it sit there, unread, untouched, proof of how easily something urgent becomes irrelevant when you stop feeding it attention. I knew her pattern. After the silence, she'd post something about healing or self-growth. A Target haul, maybe. A caption about peace. But behind the pastel filters, I knew what that really was. The panic of losing an audience she'd mistaken for connection. She'd spent so long teaching the world how to watch her. Now, she was learning what it felt like when no one did. It didn't take long before the silence around her started to spread. People at work stopped inviting her to meetings. Her name came up less often in client calls. The same followers who once cheered her every post now scrolled past without pausing. The algorithm she worshipped had turned its back on her, and for the first time, she had to face what it felt like to exist without an audience. One of her friends told me later that she'd started coming into the office earlier, dressing more simply, no stories, no filters. She'd sit through lunch alone, scrolling through her own feed like she was studying a stranger. I didn't take pleasure in it. I just understood it. That's how real consequence looks, quiet, not cruel. Back in the coastal town, my life had settled into something steady. I'd finish work, wash off the dust, and drive to the pier. The truck's engine always hummed the same way, calm, reliable. I'd sit there watching the ocean, the same kind of motion that never needed attention to matter. It just was. One evening, I checked my old phone, the one I'd left turned off for months. Dozens of unread messages blinked like ghosts. "Can we talk? Please call me. I miss you." The last one was a photo of her holding a cup of coffee at the same kitchen table, the one she used to film everything at. No caption, just the picture. I looked at it for a long time, then powered the phone off again. Some things don't need answers. Word spread fast in small towns, but here, no one knew my story. I was just another guy in a hard hat, building something that would outlast him. I liked it that way. Meanwhile, back in her city, her curated image kept unraveling. Her coworkers started whispering about how different she seemed, distracted, nervous, older somehow. When your life depends on how people see you, losing their gaze is its own kind of punishment. She once told me that attention was currency. She never realized how fast it devalues when no one's buying. Months passed before her silence finally reached me. Not through words, but through absence. No new posts. No stories. Just a blank space where her constant noise used to live. I'd almost forgotten what that kind of quiet from her felt like. It wasn't peace. It was surrender. A mutual friend called one night while I was finishing up at the site. He said she'd moved out of the apartment. Something about downsizing, cutting costs. Her agency had dropped her completely. No clients, no campaigns, no followers to reassure her that she still mattered. For a woman who once measured her worth in reactions, that kind of stillness must have felt like suffocation. I didn't ask for details. I just listened, then went back to work. The sound of steel against stone was steady, predictable, something her world had never been. Later, I grabbed dinner at the diner again, sat at the same corner table. The waitress knew my order by heart now. No cameras, no conversations that existed for display. Just reality, unfiltered. But that night, for the first time in a long time, I thought about her face, not the version lit by a ring light, but the one I used to see early in the morning before the performance began. I wondered if she'd finally stopped checking her phone before she spoke to people. If she'd learned to hear her own voice without the echo of approval. I didn't miss her the way people expect. It wasn't longing. It was recognition, the kind that happens when you finally understand how someone taught you to disappear without meaning to. She made attention feel like love, but silence turned out to be the real proof of it. I heard she tried reaching out to a few old friends, but most had already moved on. Her world was built on engagement, and engagement fades. That's the math of attention, unsustainable by design. And somewhere between her need to be seen and my choice to vanish, the balance finally evened out. She was learning isolation. I was mastering solitude. both built from the same materials, but only one of us knew how to stand on it. It was late fall when she finally found me. I was standing outside the site office, the air sharp with the smell of rain and metal. Her car pulled up slowly, headlights cutting through the mist. For a second, I thought I was imagining it. She'd become a part of a different world, one made of pixels and noise. Seeing her in real life again felt like watching something old flicker back onto a new screen. She stepped out, smaller somehow. No camera in her hand this time, no designer smile. Just a woman who'd run out of scripts. She said my name like it might unlock something. It didn't. She started talking fast, the way people do when they're trying to fill the gap silence leaves behind. About how everything fell apart. About losing her job, her audience, her sense of control. She said she realized too late that she'd been performing for people who never cared, while ignoring the one person who actually did. I let her talk. The rain started to fall harder, soft enough to blur the edges of her words. I could have said something to make it easier for her, but I didn't. Because ease was what got us here. When she finally stopped, she just looked at me, waiting for anger, maybe forgiveness, anything. But all I said was, "You look tired." Not as an insult, just truth. She nodded, eyes wet but steady. Then she said she missed the way I used to look at her, not through a screen, but through a moment. That was the first honest thing she'd said in years. I didn't answer. I wasn't here for closure or confession. I just wanted to see if she'd learned to face silence without flinching. The rain softened. She whispered that she'd changed, that she wanted to start over, rebuild something real. I stood there, not angry, not moved, just aware. Because what she didn't understand was that I'd already rebuilt, not us, but myself. And no filter could capture what that costs. We ended up sitting in the cab of my truck while the rain kept falling. She looked around like she was trying to recognize a version of me that no longer existed. Her eyes landed on the tools in the back seat, the rolled-up blueprints, the signs of a man who built real things with his hands. She used to mock that, called it simple. Now it seemed like the only thing that made sense to her. She told me everything. How the agency froze her contracts. How the friends she used to tag in stories stopped returning calls. Even the influencer, the one who'd started it all, had moved on, dating someone new with a bigger following. Her voice broke once, but not out of sadness. Out of shock. She couldn't believe that after all that noise, she'd ended up in silence. I didn't interrupt. I just watched her, the way someone watches the tide come in after a storm, calm but detached. She said she hated who she'd become, that she didn't even recognize her own reflection anymore. I almost told her that I'd stopped recognizing her long before she did. But I didn't. She asked if I'd ever missed her. I told her I missed what she used to be before the world started watching. That was enough truth for both of us. Outside, the rain slowed to a steady rhythm. She looked out the window and whispered that she wanted to try again. Not online. Not for show. Just us. I didn't answer right away. I wasn't sure if what she missed was me, or the safety of being seen by someone who no longer did. For the first time, I saw her without the glow of a screen. No filters, no edits, no performance. Just raw humanity, trembling in the dark. And it hit me. This was the first time she was real in years. Maybe that was the point. Maybe some people have to lose everything that isn't real before they can finally show up as themselves. But I'd learned something too. You can forgive someone without walking back into the house they burned. We sat there for a long time, the engine off, the rain thinning into silence. She waited for a reaction, but there wasn't one. I'd spent too many nights replaying the noise she'd chosen over me to ever mistake her tears for change. Still, something in her eyes looked different this time. Like she finally understood that attention and connection aren't the same thing. She asked what I wanted. I told her nothing. Not in anger, but in truth. I didn't want revenge or validation. I didn't even want an apology. All I wanted was peace, and I already had it. She looked down, her hands twisting the edge of her sleeve, the way she used to do when she was nervous before a big pitch. Only this time, there was no camera, no audience. Just two people in the aftermath of what happens when one of them stops showing up. I could feel the question building in her, the one she didn't want to ask. Is this goodbye? She didn't say it, but her silence did. I started the truck. The sound cut through the air like a decision. She flinched, but didn't move. I told her quietly that I wasn't disappearing. I just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected. The line hung there for a moment before it settled. She nodded slowly, the weight of it sinking in. As I pulled away, she stayed standing in the rain. No umbrella, no phone in her hand for once. Just her, stripped of the performance. I caught one last glimpse of her in the side mirror, small, still, unfiltered. By the time I reached the highway, the world had turned quiet again. The kind of quiet that isn't empty, but earned. My phone was still off. My past was still behind me. Some stories don't end with closure or second chances. Some just end when you stop feeding what's been starving you. She thought intimacy was optional, so I made my presence optional too. And somewhere between her need to be seen and my choice to disappear, I became what she never expected, someone she could finally see, but never reach again. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories.